Greetings, YouTube. The Doctor is in. Dr. Urius Papers here coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons & Dragons. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like this video. Hit the like button. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment. All right, it is time for another installment of the Doctor spell prognosis. And today we're talking about the first level spell, Alarm. So, what do I think about Alarm? I'm not giving it an A, but I'll give it a pretty solid B. Let's put it that way. It's not necessarily a spell that you can use in combat, but it is a spell that can be used near combat. So remember that term that I have used before. These are spells that can empower your combat very much. And I'm going to give a few examples of that while we talk about this. So it's a first level spell. Takes 1 minute to cast, but it's a ritual. It can be used by rangers, wizards, artificers, and Oath of the Watcher, which is a paladin class. So the big one is the wizard. So the wizard who takes Alarm doesn't have to prepare this spell, and they can cast it right out of their book as a ritual. Everybody else can cast it as a ritual, but they have to have it prepared. But what that means is you can cast this as much as you want as a ritual. It takes 10 minutes, but you can cast this over and over and over again and it doesn't lose any of your slots. That's great. And for the wizards, it's even better because it's right out of the book. It has a range of 30 feet. So when you cast it, you ward an area within 30 feet of you. But once it's warded for 8 hours because it has a duration of 8 hours. Abjuration, no attack and save, and it's a detection effect. So you set an alarm against unwanted intrusion. Choose a door, a window, or an area within range that is no larger than a 20-foot cube. That's big. A cube that's 20 feet on a side. Until the spell ends, which is 8 hours, an alarm alerts you whenever a tiny or larger creature enters the warded area. So when we talk about tiny creatures, we gotta do some looking here. So let's look at monsters and we can look at size. So let's look at tiny. What is tiny? So we've got abyssal chicken, animated knife, badger. So basically the thing about the things that are about the size of a badger or a bat or a cat. I don't think toads are. Let's see if toad is on here. Will-o'-the-wisp. So I don't see frog or toad. I think there is a setting that's smaller than that. So it's about the size of a cat. Okay, so let's go back to the spell. So it's about the size of a cat. And so whenever a tiny or larger creature touches or enters the warded area, when you cast the spell, you designate creatures that won't set off the alarm. So like your party. You also choose whether the alarm is mental or audible. That's really important. So I'm going to go through the audible one first. An audible alarm produces a sound of a handbell for 10 seconds within 60 feet. If you're farther than 60 feet away, you may not hear it. And so that's one of the important aspects of this. Now, the mental one is really the one that has the most use. A mental alarm alerts you with a ping in your mind if you are within 1 mile of the warded area. This ping awakens you if you are sleeping. So this thing lasts for an entire long rest, and it will awaken the person who cast it. If you have more than one person in the party that can cast this, then you can have multiple alarms going off to egresses or ingresses into the area that you're in. That will alert you. Now, it does have a verbal, somatic, and material component, but it's a little bell and a little piece of silver wire, so it's not that big a deal. But having multiple alarms is great. So if you're casting this and there's a couple of doors in a room that you're trying to rest in, then that's great. You can ward both doors. I talk about range because the audible one. So you put it down within 30 feet of you, and then you can walk away. But with the audible one, it's a handbell within 60 feet. So that's not great. But you can drop this within 30 feet of you, walk away, and you can walk up to a mile away, and you get an alert in your mind, which is great. So you can set up some really good ambushes by if you know an opponent or an enemy is coming through an area even if it's inside or outside, because it doesn't say that. It says choose a door, window, or area within range that is no larger than a 20-foot cube. So you could say between those two trees. And you could, if you wanted to know when they were going to come by, because this thing lasts for 8 hours, you could set it even if they're invisible. This doesn't say anything about creatures being visible or invisible. This just says it happens if they're a certain size or larger. So you'll know if an invisible creature comes by. They won't know that you're doing this. So that's kind of the magic of this. And when you pair this up with, say, like the assassin rogue, who, when they get surprised, they get crits, even with their, they get advantage and crits, even with their sneak attack, you're setting up a really good near combat situation where you can have surprise, because you know the enemy has come into the area, and you know where they've come in the area because of where you put your alarm. So it kind of allows you to triangulate where they are and get everybody ready to go. So I think this is a pretty good spell. I give it a solid B because it does have near combat, but it's not in combat effects. And I think the mental alarm version of this is much better because of the range that it has than the audible alarm. Now, I think maybe might want to use the audible alarm thing if you want the enemy to know that they have actually come into a certain area, because they will hear it. They will actually hear that alarm, so they may know they're about ready to get surprised. Maybe there's a role-playing reason for that. But other than that, I think that the ping, the mental ping, is a better version of this. Now, the only problem I can see coming in with this spell is tinier or larger creature. So if you've got a badger or a cat, or you're outside, anything that's tiny or larger that comes is going to set it off. And so you could have, critters coming out of the woods in the middle of the night and setting this off. So I think if you're going to do it outside, you need to keep that in mind, that it may go off and it may not be the enemy or who you think it is that's setting it off. So, all right, that's what I got for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody later.